Hi guys, Nick here, and today I am very excited to welcome you to the first episode of Relaxing Reviews. This is a new series that I'm starting on the channel in which I will be unboxing and doing product tours and reviews with all kinds of gaming related hardware, software, peripherals, collectibles, all those kinds of things. And along the way, I'll be sharing my candid opinions on these products. And as longtime viewers will know, I'm very passionate about these kinds of things. I love talking about these kinds of products. And so I think this is a really good fit for this channel. My goal with Relaxing Reviews is to provide you with an alternative to the loud, fast-paced, in-your-face style of reviews that dominate YouTube these days. I want to provide a laid-back experience, and my reviews will be quiet and methodical, and they'll focus primarily or especially on the tactile and experiential aspects of the items in question. My hope is that you'll find these reviews interesting and informative, and just as importantly, relaxing. Maybe they'll help you make some purchasing decisions, or maybe they'll just help you unwind at the end of a long day. I've got some really exciting plans for this series, and I am so thankful to have you guys coming along on the ride with me. So without further ado, let's get started with the very first relaxing review. Okay, so for today's relaxed review, I'm going to be unboxing and taking a look at the KM-G3 mechanical keyboard from Aukey. Aukey is a manufacturer of mobile accessories and computer peripherals with a particularly significant presence on Amazon. Their KM-G3 mechanical keyboard that we have here today is equipped with blue mechanical switches and customizable RGB backlighting, which is all the rage these days. This particular unit that I'll be unboxing here today was kindly provided by Aukey to me for me to show you guys. So let's get started. The packaging itself is pleasingly uncluttered. It's quite, I guess, minimalistic in its design. On the back here, it says, product features, 9 extraordinary LED lighting effects, colorful rainbow backlighting gaming keyboard, specially designed keys for enhanced durability and tactile feedback, and mechanical key architecture with distinct tactile feel and faster response. And on the front, it just has a picture of the product. And that is all we have here. So let's open it up. So inside that cardboard slip is a plain brown cardboard box. Looks like it opens this way. So inside the box, we have a handful of items. I believe this here is the warranty card, which comes with an interesting design on it. Sort of a keyhole circuit board design, which I suppose is in keeping with the name Aukey. And this particular product comes with a 24-month or 2-year warranty, which is actually reasonably generous. Thank you for choosing Aukey, your key to friendly, responsive service and the widest selection of mobile tech upgrades. Your new product is covered by our 24-month warranty. So that's a little bit of peace of mind. We also have here a keycap puller, which will allow us to remove the keycaps on the keyboard if we so choose and replace them with our own custom keycaps. It's a small thing, but it's a nice detail that they include that. We then have a user manual for the keyboard. Which describes in particular how to use the lighting effects and configure the RGB backlighting. And then of course we have the keyboard itself. So let's take that out. So here we have the keyboard with a USB cable, of course. The USB cable is just a typical plastic sheathed cable. There's no fancy braiding or anything going on here, but no doubt gets the job done. And it is bound up with a Velcro cable wrap, which is actually another nice little detail. I always like to see reusable Velcro wraps as opposed to twist ties or elastic bands. So let's remove this bag. So here is the keyboard itself. And as you can see, it's reasonably compact. There's not a lot of wasted space, and it's actually a fairly subtle design overall, I would say. So the first thing that you were probably noticing is those lovely blue mechanical keys. And if you don't know the difference between mechanical keys and typical membrane dome keys, there are some great articles online that describe that, and perhaps I will go into more depth in a future video. But the essential difference is that there is a mechanical switch, a switch mechanism underneath each of these keycaps, and it provides a very definite and tactile response. Now, this keyboard does not use Cherry MX mechanical switches. This keyboard uses a variety of mechanical switches from a company called Outemu. And this is no doubt a cost-saving measure. And some people claim that these switches don't perform as well as the original Cherry MX switches. But as a matter of fact, the Outemu switches in particular have a bit of a following because many people say they're a bit clickier, even a bit more tactile than Cherry's original switches. And mechanical switches come in a variety of sensitivities and feels, if you will. The blue switches in particular are very, very clicky. They have a snap to them that other keys do not have. And what that means is that these kinds of boards with the blue switches are a delight to type on. It's just a very, very satisfying tactile experience. And a lot of people like to game on them as well. Although there are other switch types which are a little bit quieter and don't have quite such a definite click, like brown switches, for instance, which have a little bump to them, but not that snap that you hear. But at any rate, blue switches are popular among gamers as well as people who type a lot. So let's get a little bit more into this product. The construction feels quite solid, I will say. My first impression is that it's nice and weighty and dense. And this back plate that you see here, this back plate is in fact a brushed metal. I don't know if it's an aluminum or what it is, but it feels nice. It gives a feeling of solidity and quality to the board. And as you can see, it is a full 104 key layout. So we have on the left-hand side our numeric keypad. There's a trend these days, especially amongst gaming boards and low-cost gaming boards at that, to remove that numeric keypad. That's called a 10 keyless design. But this includes the keypad, which I personally appreciate a great deal because I do make use of it. So the keycaps that come on the board have what I would call an interesting choice of font. I am personally not a big fan of the font that Aukey has chosen for these keycaps. I think they're trying to look kind of futuristic, maybe, or sort of space age. And it's not terrible, but I prefer something a little more classic, a little more staid. We'll get a closer look at this board in just a moment. We'll switch angles here, and I'll let you see it up close and personal. And of course I can't take a look at the LED backlighting just yet, but I will get it plugged into a computer, and we will look at some of the different lighting configuration options. But first impressions out of the box are positive. I think this board looks quite nice, quite compact. It feels nice in hand. And initial impressions with the keys are positive. The mechanical switches, the blues underneath, are very clicky as expected. And it doesn't seem to be too much wobble in the keys, but we'll test that more in just a moment. So let's get this thing plugged in. Let's switch angles here, and we'll take a closer look at this keyboard. Here we have a closer look at the keyboard, which is now plugged in. And you can see a bit of the backlight. I currently have lights illuminating the keyboard, so the backlight itself doesn't show up very strongly, but we'll fix that shortly. But I just wanted to show you guys a few of the finer details here. So you can see the typeface that I was talking about, the font choice for the keycaps. And I think in some cases it doesn't look that great, like the number 8. I don't really like the look of the letter B. There's just a handful of characters in this font that I don't really like. It's certainly not a deal breaker, and again, maybe you like the look of it, but I prefer something a bit plainer. However, you can see this brushed metal backplate, which is very nice. All the regular lock lights over here, caps lock, num lock, all that kind of stuff. What we can see here is that there are no dedicated media keys or shortcut keys. They all exist as sort of secondary functions of the F keys up here, which are activated, I believe, by holding down this function key down at the bottom. But this is where you have your play, pause, fast forward, volume up, down, all those sorts of things. And once again, it's not a deal breaker. It keeps the keyboard compact, but I do like having dedicated media keys on my keyboards. I think it's a nice addition, and I do wish this board had them. So why don't we quickly use the key puller here to remove the keycaps, or a keycap at least, on these arrow keys, and take a look at what's underneath, which will be the Outemu Blue switch. So there's the keycap itself. They feel fine. I would say they feel of equivalent quality to what I've got on my daily driver, which is a Corsair keyboard, Corsair K70. And you can see right underneath this blue switch. With the LED illuminating it. So let's put that cap back on. And let's take a closer look at the LED situation. For that, I'm going to turn off the lights here, and the LEDs should become much more visible. Now, in the darkness, you can really see that backlighting. And with my experimentations here, I discovered a couple of things with the keyboard. One is that the product manual is very poorly written, and that is maybe the biggest strike against this board that I've encountered so far. It appears to have a lot of functionality when it comes to these LEDs and the backlight, but it's very hard to decipher the manual to figure out exactly how to operate the backlighting. But I was able to struggle through some of it, and most of the backlighting seems to be toggled by using this function key and then insert and delete. So function and delete will cycle the colors. Now, I called this an RGB keyboard before, which is not entirely true. There's no arbitrary color selection with this keyboard. What there is a set of 8 fixed colors that you can cycle through. And I think they look quite nice. They're vivid, they're saturated, and as you can see, all of the LEDs are working, which is important. None of them are out. So that's the case with the colors. There are brightness settings. So if I hold down the function key and press up and down on the arrow keys, we can cycle through 5 different brightness settings. And now this is where things get very interesting. We can also hold down the function key and press insert. And that will cycle through a handful, I think about 8 different effects. This is a breathing effect, as you can see. It's slowly getting brighter and then fading out. And these effects can be used in combination with the color selection, I believe. Yes, indeed. Which is good. And this is one of the more subtle effects. They get more exciting. Let's look at this. Well, that one's not particularly exciting, actually. What you can see here is that certain clusters of keys are highlighted in certain colors on this particular setting. Let's try. Okay, so we've got some kind of color pulsing situation going on here now. You can see the keyboard is cycling through the colors, and all the keys are changing color uniformly. So this one's a neat one. You can't really see, but my camera doesn't want to focus very well here in the darkness. But what's happening is, as I press each key, the light fades on and off, which is kind of interesting. Okay, let's see if I can find it in the dark here. The function, there it is, function insert. So this is sort of a waves effect. Sort of waves of light pulsing across the keyboard. And this one's quite something. It's a rainbow effect that progresses across the keys and down the board, and then all the way back, and each key is a different color. Absolutely impractical, but quite pretty. Okay. This is probably my favorite. It is a pulse, a ripple of color that centers on the key that you press and then ripples outward. There's also speed controls for each of these effects. So if you wanted to ripple faster or slower, or you want the breathing effects to go faster or slower, that can be controlled stepwise as well. Meanwhile, my camera is having a very difficult time maintaining its focus here. Although it looks kind of nice, doesn't it? Defocused like that. The colors rippling by. Okay. And that brings us back to the solid color that we started with. Why don't we keep it there for now? Change it up a bit. So those are some of the LED effects that are available on this keyboard. There's also a custom mode or a per game mode where you can select on a per key basis which keys are illuminated and which colors they're illuminated with. And the keyboard comes with several game-based presets. For instance, if I go function 1, you can see we get WASD escape highlighted here, which is what they call the first-person shooter mode. If I go function 2, I think this is their MOBA mode. You can see it highlights some additional keys here. Got different colors and things like that. Function 3, another cluster of keys is highlighted. So these are potentially useful features for different kinds of gamers or different kinds of gaming needs. And if at any point you get too carried away with your LED adventures, you can hold down function and press escape. and it will do a little boot up flash, and then it'll reset the LEDs to their defaults. So that is the LED situation with this keyboard. And well, it would be nice if there was some kind of software that accompanied the keyboard that allowed you to have even finer grain control over the actual colors and things like that. I think that the implementation as it stands is pretty good. Certainly there's some fun effects. There's also some practical controls for setting specific backlighting combinations, custom keys and things like that. So, alright, let's turn the lights back on here. So here we are with the lights back on again. So you can see the keyboard once more, a little bit better. And there's a few more items that we need to discuss. One is the issue of ghosting, or N-key rollover, as they call it, which is the ability to hold down a bunch of keys at once and still have the keyboard register your inputs. I did a little test just a moment ago, and it seems as though it'll handle, well, at least up to 8. I pressed 8 different keys, and it seemed to continue to register new inputs. So that's important for gamers who might be pressing, you know, a number of keys at once. Let's talk a little bit more about the key presses and the key action. These are, as I have said, very clicky keys, quite satisfying to press. The actuation force on each key is a little bit higher than what I'm used to. Takes a fair bit of weight on the key. I believe that authentic Cherry MX Blue switches are tuned to an actuation force of 50 centinewtons. I've heard that these Outemu switches are a little bit stiffer, require a little bit more force to actuate, and I would say it does feel that way, but I can't quantify that myself. I will say that the travel is satisfactory. The action is smooth. They don't feel too scratchy. That can be something that is sort of symptomatic of, well, it's something that comes with mechanical keys. Sometimes you need to break them in a little bit. They'll feel a bit scratchy for a while, but these don't really feel that way. And there's a bit of wobble on some of the bigger keys. The space bar being the worst offender, as normal, but for the most part, they are reasonably stable, I would say, on par with my Corsair keyboard. So what do we have left to cover? Well, let's talk price. That's a very important aspect of any product, and it can absolutely make or break it. This particular keyboard is available for $65 US on Amazon, and that is a fair price, I think. If you are willing to go with the 10 keyless designs, where you lose the numeric keypad, You can get mechanical keyboards for as little as $40, but if you want the full 104 key layout, you're looking at about $65 as the starting point. If you want the configurable backlighting, at least. If you are happy with fixed backlighting, you can find some for closer to $45 or $50 that are still in this 104 key layout. All of these keyboards in this price range are using essentially these clone switches from these manufacturers that aren't Cherry, like Outemu, other companies like KM-G3, Razer has their own switches, which they do charge quite a bit more for. But there's a variety of manufacturers of these switches beyond just the authentic Cherry ones. If you want Cherry MX switches branded as such, those keyboards start around $70 US. And if you want them with configurable backlights and multicolored LEDs, you're looking at 80 plus, and they just go up from there. So I think that $65 is a fair price for the feature set that this board offers and the quality of its components. Okay, so we've unboxed the keyboard, we've looked at its physical attributes, talked about the aesthetics, we've looked at the keys, the key caps, we looked extensively at the LEDs and their capabilities. We talked a little bit about pricing, build quality. For what it's worth, these Outemu switches, according to the product manual at least, are rated for 50 million strokes apiece, which is on par with Cherry MX, authentic Cherry MX switches. That's a lot. That's a long lifetime. So I don't think you need to worry too much about the ability of these keys to last, but of course that's not something I can test here and now. But at least that's their claim, 50 million keystrokes. So in summary, what have we got here? Well, I think that we've got a pretty good product. I think that Aukey has made a really appealing keyboard in the KM-G3. And I'm going to do a bit of a breakdown here for you. We're going to break it down into what I think is good about this board, some more sort of ambiguous things that could go either way, and some things that I think are not quite as great. So, on the good end of things, the keyboard does a lot of things well. For one, these blue switches are very satisfying. They feel great, and they make for a very tactile typing experience, a very engaging typing experience. The key presses themselves, beyond just the click, but the travel and the action of each key feels very good. It's smooth, it's not scratchy or unpleasant, and the key wobble is not too bad. Another item in the good column is the backlighting. I think that while it's not configurable to any hue, it hits the major colors that you'd want, and it has some appealing effects, and it is customizable on a per key basis, which ones are illuminated and with what color. I like the full 104 key layout. That's personal preference, I guess, but I do like having that numeric keypad on the right hand side. Maybe I'm just old fashioned, but I think it's good to have there. I've turned off the lights here again so you can appreciate the LEDs some more while we talk. Summarize these points. So, I think the construction is very solid. The frame is a plastic, but the backplate is brushed metal, which I think is aesthetically pleasing and lends a nice sense of solidity to the keyboard. Overall, it feels good, in hand. It's weighty, and it just feels well constructed. It comes with a keycap puller, which is a little thing, but again, it's a nice little detail. The 2-year warranty is quite appealing, and I think it's priced right for what you get. In the somewhat more uncertain category, the Outemu Blue switches, as opposed to Authentic Cherry MX, could go either way. Like I said, some people actually prefer them because they're a little bit stiffer and a little bit clickier. But some people prefer the Authentic Cherry MX switches. However, for the price, there's really nothing in this price bracket that comes with the Authentic Cherry switches. And so the use of the Outemu switches, which do have a high lifetime rating, is totally acceptable. There's no included wrist rest, of course. We didn't see anything in the box. That, again, could be a plus or minus depending on who you are and whether you like to use a wrist rest. I personally do, but I probably wouldn't use the one in the box anyway, and by not having one, it keeps that cost down. So the cable isn't braided or anything fancy like that. It's just plastic sheathed. Again, I kind of like the braided cables, but there's nothing particularly wrong with this one, and it doesn't seem like it's too prone to getting tangled or anything, so that's not too much of a problem. And the N key rollover situation, I'm not quite clear. Like I said, in my little testing, it seemed to work pretty well, but I do not believe that it's an infinite number of keys that can be held down. I think there's probably a limit that will be hit at some point, but for all practical intents and purposes, I think it's just fine. So there were a few things that I didn't like so much about this keyboard. One is the choice of font on the keycaps. I just think it's sort of aesthetically unpleasing, and honestly, I think it just looks a little bit tacky. I think it cheapens the look of the board a bit, but then again, I think that's the case with a lot of keyboards, so perhaps that's just me. And I'm not thrilled with the fact that there are no dedicated media keys or shortcut keys. I do like to have those on my keyboards, and I don't think it would be too much to ask to have dedicated media keys on a board at this price point. One additional thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but is worth bringing up, is that this keyboard has no ability to record macros or to bind actions to arbitrary keys or anything like that. It has no software that goes with it or anything along those lines. And that is certainly a feature that you will find on more expensive keyboards, and for some gamers that could be a very important feature. I personally don't use macros for anything really in any games, so it's not something that I miss, but some people really do value the ability to record custom macros. But when you consider, again, the price, it always comes down to the context of the price and the competition at that price point. I think that this is a fine piece of hardware. I think that it is well put together. I think that it performs its functions as advertised. and I think that it's pretty good value. And some of those more advanced features, like the ability to record macros, is just not something you see at this price point, nor would I expect it to be. So that is my fairly exhaustive look at the KM-G3 mechanical keyboard from Aukey. If this looks like a product that you would be interested in, there will be links to where you can purchase it down in the video description. But I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I would love to know what you think of this series that I have planned here of relaxing reviews. I would love to hear from you down in the comments section. I do have a couple other things lined up already that I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining me here today on our first episode of Relaxing Reviews. And I look very forward to having you back here next time. Bye for now.